Yashoda Devi,
Yeah.
Vishwambarda, Sarachakra Prabhu, Loka Devi.
Yeah. So Hare
Yeah.
Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Jagat Guru Shri Prabhupada. All glories to our revered speaker for today, Her Grace, Mother VRAJALILA Devi, and the assembled Vaishnavi devotees. We thank you all for being here. Today is Tuesday, the 16th day of July 2024. It's very nice. It's 16. It's the 16 rounds of japa minimum. 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra minimum. So today is a reminder of that vow. And we have Her Grace Mother VRAJALILA, our own mother, our auntie, our sister, our everything, who will be speaking with us today. So if you did not know Mother VRAJALILA, then you better go to Antarctica and hide yourself somewhere because you must be an alien. Okay, enough with my antics. We may put the verse on the screen, and Mother, you take it over from here. Hare Krishna. We're very grateful to have your association.
Haribol, Hare Krishna, Salika
Hare
Prabhu,
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hari Hari. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're continuing in this third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and we are now on the bank of the Yamuna. So we are reading Canto 3, Chapter 1, Text 28. Now do the Sanskrit and the, English translation. Kachit Varutadipatir Yadunam Pradyumnashte Shukamanga Viraha Yam Rukmini Bhagavato Abilibhe Aradhya Vipran Smaranadi Sarge. And the synonyms: Kashchit, weather; Varutha, of the military; Adipati, commander-in-chief; Yadunam, of the Yadus; Pradyumna, the son of Krishna, named Pradyumna; Ashte is Shukam, happy; Anga, O Uddhava; Viraha, the great warrior; Yam, whom; Rukmini, the wife of Krishna, named Rukmini; Bhagavataha, from the personality of Godhead; Abhilibhe, got as a prize; Aradhya, pleasing; Vipran, brahmanas; Smaram, Cupid; Kamadev, Adi, Sarge, in his previous life. Srila Prabhupada's translation. O Uddhava, please tell me, how is Pradyumna, the commander-in-chief of the Yadus, who was Cupid in a former life? Rukmini bore him as her son from Lord Krishna by the grace of Brahmanas, whom she pleased. Srila Prabhupada's purport. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, Shmara, Cupid, or Kamadev, is one of the eternal associates of Lord Krishna. Jiva Goswami has explained this very elaborately in his treatise, Krishna Sandarbha. We'll go to the next verse. We're reading up to 30. And I'll skip the Sanskrit here and just read the translation in English, bro. So the translation: oh, my friend, tell me whether Ugrasena, the king of Sattvatas, Vrishnis, Bojas, and Dashahas, is now doing well. He went far away from his kingdom leaving aside all hopes of his royal throne. But Lord Krishna again installed him. And the last text is text 30. Text 30. The Srila Prabhupada's translation. O gentle one, does Samba fare well? He exactly resembles the son of the personality of Godhead. In a previous birth, he was born as Kartikeya in the womb of the wife of Lord Shiva. And now he has been born in the womb of Jambavati, the most enriched wife of Krishna. Srila Prabhupada's purport. There's a purport here, I believe. Yes. Lord Shiva, one of the three qualitative incarnations of the personality of Godhead, is the plenary expansion of the Lord. Kartikeya, born of him, is on the level of Pradumna, another son of Lord Krishna. When Lord Sri Krishna descends into the material world, all his plenary portions also appear with him to exhibit different functions of the Lord. But for the pastimes at Vrindavan, all functions are performed by the Lord's different plenary expansions. Vasudeva is a plenary expansion of Narayan. When the Lord appeared as Vasudeva before Devaki and Vasudeva, he appeared in his capacity as Narayan. Similarly, all the demigods of the heavenly kingdom appeared as associates of the Lord in the forms of Pradyumna, Samba, Uddhava, etc. It is learned here that Kamadev appeared as Pradyumna, Kartikeya as Samba, and one of the Vasus as Uddhava. All of them served in their different capacities in order to enrich the pastimes of Krishna. Om Ganati Mirandasya, Gana Shalakaya, Chakshun Militam Yena, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutale, Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Radati Swa Vadantikam, Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta, Parakamalam Shri Guru, Vaishnavamscha. Shri Rupa Sagachatam Sahagana Raghunatam Tam Sajivam Sadvitam Sarabhutam Harijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Pitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi, Radhe Vrindavaneshwari, Rishabhanu Sutta Devi, Pranamami Hari Pre. Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Tirtha Swami Tinamine Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Shitatmane Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Tinamine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Vastyatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Shri Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Haribol, dear devotees, thank you very much for being here. You take your precious time to be on the Sangha, and we are deeply appreciative. So we are reading this is the last verse, 30. This is the translation. So Okay, we can read this translation. O gentle one, does Samba fare well? He exactly resembles the son of the personality of Godhead. In a previous birth, he was born as Kartikeya in the womb of the wife of Lord Shiva. And now he has been born in the womb of Jambavati, the most enriched wife of Krishna. So that's the last of the verses that we're reading. And we're now we're accompanying Uddhava, who is now on the banks of the Yamuna. And as we all know, he's asking questions about Krishna's relatives, all the people that he had been associated with prior to him going on pilgrimage. We learned that he's been on pilgrimage. Some say 30, some say 34, some say 36. So somewhere between 30 and 36 years he was on pilgrimage. And now he's receiving this great, amazing opportunity where he is now somehow or other he's coming meeting he's meeting Uddhava. I'm sorry, we're talking about Vidura. So he's meeting Uddhava. Vidura is now meeting Uddhava, the great devotee of the Lord. And so Vidura, if we can go back a little bit, we can remember that Parikshit Maharaj is asking the sages questions. He's asking Sukadeva Goswami. And we're hearing we're hearing some of the narrations of the pastimes of the Lord in cantos 1 and cantos 2. And we know that in those two cantos, it was shared with us that Vidura had left, his family's home because he was insulted by Duryodhana, his nephew. And so he left to go on pilgrimage because he didn't want to be involved in the drama that was going on at that time. And so he went on pilgrimage, and he went to so many different places on pilgrimage. And here we are now at the Yamuna River, where he's meeting with Uddhava, the very great devotee of Lord Krishna. And if we, remember some of those pastimes of Uddhav and how aligned he was with Lord Krishna, how much connected he was with Krishna, then we can understand why Prabhupada says here, the great devotee of Lord Krishna, because Uddhava was one of those devotees that was fully, completely dedicated to being in those pastimes with the Lord and to show us how to be a true servant of the Lord. So what has caught my attention about these verses in this canto, in this part of the canto, in this part of, I'm sorry, not this third, in the third canto, in this first chapter, what's caught my attention is in this first chapter, it's all about understanding feelings and separation. It's all about understanding affection. So Vidura is asking affectionate questions. He's inquiring in a very loving and caring mood about Krishna's relatives. So in text 28, he's asking Uddhava to please tell him about Pradyumna. And he's saying, Pradyumna he was the commander-in-chief of the Yadus. So he played an important role in these pastimes. Remember, we're now hearing stories about the personalities that Krishna engaged in different services while Krishna was here on the planet. And so he's asking about Pradyumna, who we learn is he was Cupid in a former life. So Prabhupada mentions this for a reason. Why is it that he wants us to know about who Pradyumna is? If we, all of these texts, 28, 29, and 30, they are actually explaining the backstory of many of the personalities that were engaged in Krishna's pastimes. Everyone has a backstory. And so we learn that these Beth stories go all the way back to the time of Krishna, and Krishna inviting those persons to come and be a part of his pastime. So Pradyumna, we learn, is Rukmini's son. And we learned that Rukmini was blessed to have this child, this son Pradyumna, because she served the Brahmanas. And when we read Krishna's pastimes, one of the pastimes that we can look to in terms of understanding Rukmini's mood of service is when Sudaman Brahman came to visit Krishna. And we know that, we know the story. I don't want to be talking to the choir here. However, what the essence of the story is that Rukmini assisted Krishna in pouring the water on the feet of when Krishna was bathing Sudama Brahma's feet. And so Rukmini was always engaged in serving the Brahmanas, even from a child, as she was always engaged in hearing from the Brahmanas. And so let's look at two points here Prabhupada mentions in the purport. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, Cupid, or Kamadev, is one of the eternal associates of Lord Krishna. And Jiva Goswami has explained this very elaborately in his treatise, Krishna Sandarbha. So 2 points that's important and relevant for us. Why did Srila Prabhupada in the purport, it's a very short purport, mentions about the Sandarbhas? Why did he mention about specifically this Krishna Sandarbha? There, we learn that, just very briefly, because this is it's a very technical even for me, that there are 6 Sandarbhas. There's what is called the Sat Sandarbha. And all of these Sandarbhas, they are referencing different, very intricate understanding about the Supreme Lord. There are 6 Sandarbhas, and the original of the Sat Sandarbha was the Bhagavat Sandarbha. So this Bhagavat Sandarbha, which is the main understanding, the main analysis of the essential understanding of the Srimad Bhagavatam, of the Bhagavad Purana. These Sandarbhas, they give us these essential knowledge, essential understanding. And Jiva Goswami, I believe he got this initially from Baladeva Vibhushan. I'm not sure about that point, but in any case, Jiva Goswami received this knowledge and he put it together. He put a comprehensive analysis of these different Sandarbhas. And so the Sandarbhas, they consist of 6 parts. And one of the part that Prabhupada is mentioning here is the Krishna Sandarbha. And this Krishna Sandarbha is going to explain to us about Pradyumna and who Pradyumna was and why it's mentioned that he was Cupid in his past life. So Cupid, there are 2 understandings of Cupid. Cupid, of course, is an expansion of Lord Vishnu. And at the same time, Cupid plays a role in with the demigods. He plays a role where there's this very beautiful pastime of understanding this mood of Pradyumna, understanding who Pradyumna is. When we talk about Cupid and we talk about Pradyumna, we are not exactly speaking of the same person. We're speaking of an energy that has entered into a personality. So Cupid, although he is a form, he does have a form, he entered into Pradyumna, the son of Rukmini. However, he's also in the spiritual world, and he's also a part of the spiritual realm. The story is that Cupid, appeared from, I believe, this part of Lord Brahma, from this part of Lord Brahma. And he appeared to perform a role, to do a role. All the persons that are involved in Krishna Lila, their mood is to do something for the pleasure of Krishna. They're all serving Krishna in some way. And so Cupid, his backstory is when he appeared, he asked Lord Brahma, what am I supposed to do? What is my role? And Brahma said, okay, you are to procreate. You're to give people this energy, if you will, to procreate. So Cupid, he is explained that he carries this bow that's made of flowers, and there's different ways. Anyway, there's so many different. I'm trying to explain this in a very simple way that I understand. There's a breeze that comes with him when he comes, that really can disturb a person's mind, and he can, in this mood of service, he can arouse someone for procreation. This is Cupid's role. And so Cupid does this role very well. He's very, 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 very much empowered to act in this role. And so this story goes on here in this pastime is to explain to us, Prabhupada has explained to us, first of all, this is in Sastra, it's in the Sandarbhas. And secondly, and this is authorized by Jiva Goswami for us to understand these pastimes. The reason is that Jiva Goswami spent so much time putting these Sandarbhas together, compiling them together, is because Prabhupada did not want us to misunderstand these different personalities, because sometimes they have the same names. However, their role may be different than what we might be thinking. So, for example, when someone here, Pradyumna, was the son of Rukmini, he was the son of Rukmini, then someone could question, well, how was he the son of Rukmini? And at the same time, he was Cupid. How's that possible, given that Cupid, is directly performing a role on behalf of Lord Brahma? And so then Prabhupada explains to us that this is why the Sandarbhas are important, because it technically explains these different points. One of the point of the difference between Pradyumna and Cupid is we shouldn't confuse this Pradyumna with the Pradyumna of the quadruple expansion of Krishna. So we know Krishna expands, and this is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He expands himself to Balaram, and then from Balaram he expands into Vasudev, Pradyumna, Anuruddha, Shankarshan. Then he expands into a Narayan form. And what we're learning in these pastimes is about how Krishna, as Narayan, is now expanding in different plenary expansions in order for us to understand these different pastimes, for us to enter into these pastimes. So Srila Prabhupada, he doesn't want us to get confused or doubt, these different personalities, and doubt what who Krishna actually is, and why Krishna is expanding, why Krishna expands. First of all, understand that Krishna does expand. Why does he expand? And what are the roles that some of these personalities play in his expansion? So Pradyumna is explained to be a Jiva Tattva. He's explained to be a Jiva. At the same time, Prabhupada says here that in another life, he was Cupid. So this Cupid that Prabhupada is speaking about is the Cupid that performs activities with the demigods. And so here now is the story, a little story about Pradyumna. Pradyumna, when he was born, he was stolen. And so here we go. Everything that we see in this material world, we learn is a perverted reflection of what's in the spiritual world. So firstly, we're learning Pradyumna is not the same Pradyumna that are the expansions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in terms of how Krishna expands in his quadruple expansions. However, when in the world of the demigods, we know that there's always fighting between the demigods and the demons. And so here we learn that the demigods and the demons were fighting. And at one point, there was a demon, and his name was Tarka. And that demon could only be killed by Lord Shiva's son. So in order to kill this demon, the demigods, they requested Cupid to enter into Lord Shiva's abode and pierce Shiva with his arrows of love, his arrows of Cupid, arrows of arousing intimacy in Lord Shiva. Now, Lord Shiva, he was meditating, and so he did not want to be disturbed because he's in meditation. And at that point in time, it wasn't long before that Lord Shiva's wife, Sati, had left her body. And so Lord Shiva was in deep, deep meditation. However, in the world of the demigods, there was a need. And the need was that they wanted to get rid of this demon, Tarka. And so Lord Brahma, he became involved in all this drama. Sometimes we hear, sometimes when we hear Krishna's pastimes, we sometimes, at least I do, I think, wow, there's so much drama around things that go on when Krishna, expands into this world. And so here we see that Pradyumna, we see that that Shiva is, Shiva is meditating. And so now Lord Brahma gets involved, and Lord Brahma decides that he will send Parvati to be there when Lord Shiva is pierced by these arrows of Cupid. And of course, Parvati is Sati. Remember, everyone has a backstory. So Parvati is actually Sati. He was Lord Shiva's previous wife in another pastime. And so when Cupid went, because this is his service, this is what he's supposed to do. So he went as the messenger, the person that would pierce Lord Shiva, and he kind of confused the guards that were guarding Lord Shiva by his breeze, because he travels with a it's called, Prabhupada explains, the Vasant, like a Vasant mood, a Vasant, which is like springtime mood. So he brought this springtime mood where it was kind of like a cool breeze. And so this cool breeze somehow or other made the guards just kind of fall asleep. And then he entered into where Lord Shiva was meditating, and he pierced Lord Shiva, with his arrows of love, his arrows of intimacy. And what happened is Shiva became very disturbed. And Shiva burned him to ashes, burned him. And of course, when Shiva became aware, because now he's out of his meditation, he sees Parvati. So he falls in love. And so this is Lord Shiva's, so Cupid's effect, Cupid's arrows had an effect on Lord Shiva. This is to share the quality of Cupid. Cupid is not ordinary. So when Cupid is burnt to ashes, Cupid then enters into the body of Vasute, which is an expansion of the Supreme Lord. And then Cupid then gets another body, which is the body of Pradyumna, which is this story that we're reading now about why are we learning? Why is it important to learn about these personalities that came with the Lord? They're very empowered personalities, and their services, sometimes it takes different turns, different kinds of mystical ways of how we could try to understand. Now, this can only help us to kind of sit back and think, how great is the Supreme Personality of Godhead? How wonderful is our sweet Lord Krishna, that he can expand in so many different ways and give us pastimes that can help us to relate in our own daily lives to these situations. So Pradyumna now takes birth as Rukmini's child. And this particular Pradyumna, when he just prior to, he was 10 days old or something like that, he is abducted by another demon. Most of Srimad Bhagavatam teaches us about the devotees and the demons. And most of Bhagavatam teaches us how Krishna protects his devotees. And he also liberates the demons. And Krishna, he actually is merciful to everyone. However, he does it in different ways. And this is what all these memories that Vidura is asking about these personalities, because these personalities bring back some of these memories that he has of how those persons are related to Krishna. So Pradyumna is Krishna's son. However, Pradyumna has a story, almost not separate from Krishna, but he's an individual, because we're all individuals. So he has his individual story. And Pradyumna's individual story as Rukmini's son is that he gets stolen when he's 10 days old, just before, he's 10 days old. This little piece teaches us that child abduction has been going on since time immemorial, that this is not new. This is here in our scriptures. So this child was abducted by a demon. And this demon, because this demon was told that this child was going to kill him. And so he went and stole the child, right, out of the chambers, out of the maternity room from Rukmini. And so then he threw the child in the ocean. And the child was swallowed by a fish. And this is Pradyumna, this is his backstory. And then this fisherman caught this fish, and this fish then was delivered to the same home of the demon. Sambara, his name was, the same home. Now, there's a lot to this backstory, and I'm just trying to give some visuals of Pradyumna and who he is, and to understand his separateness from Cupid. And Cupid is in another life, but Cupid enters into Pradyumna, because Pradyumna is also explained to be so very beautiful. He looks just like Krishna, right? And so here, Pradyumna now, he's he's in this fish, and the person that is going to cut this fish happened to have been with him in a past life. That was his wife from a past life. And as the story goes, the fish, when she cuts the fish, there's Pradyumna, and in time she recognizes who he is. And so this is a part of the story that's you need to read it, because it's kind of interesting. At the same time, for us, we want to understand, how is it related to Krishna? How is it related to us understanding this mood of the Supreme Lord? So in essence, what actually happens is once Pradyumna and this wife, Rati, once they recognize each other. They go back to Dwarka, where Krishna lives, and there, all of the personalities, all of the people in Dwarka, where Rukmini lives, also recognize they recognize that this is a very beautiful personality, Pradyumna. And from that, Rukmini herself, here we go back to the mood of these pastimes. Out of motherly affection, Rukmini herself recognizes Pradyumna, and she herself understands that this is her child, this is her son. And so Rukmini and Pradyumna are reunited, and of course everyone is happy. And Pradyumna then goes on to, as he gets involved in Krishna's pastime, to be what Prabhupada says here, to be the chief of the Yadus, the commander-in-chief of the Yadus. So he is a person that is a warrior, and he is going to be on that battleground with anything that goes on with Krishna. This is the role that he plays. Important to know his backstory. Otherwise, if we don't know a little bit about his backstory, we can confuse ourselves in thinking, why is it that he is supposed to be Cupid? How is that? What is the difference in him being Cupid and him being Pradyumna, Rukmini's wife? So this is the first part of that understanding of that first verse. Then again, continuing with the story, we are learning about, because this is all stories, all of these pastimes are stories, and stories to help us to understand we can't separate Krishna, we can't separate the personalities that accompany Krishna on this planet from Krishna. They're all engaged in Krishna's service. Just as Srila Prabhupada is awakening us to remember that our purpose on this planet is to be a servant of Krishna. So similarly, Krishna himself expands in all of these different ways in order to engage personalities in different kinds of services. So the next person that we hear about in these pastimes is in text 29, where Krishna says, Vidura says to Uddhava, "Oh, my friend, tell me whether Ugrasena, the king of the Sattvatas, the Vrishnis, the Bhojas, the Dasharas, is now doing well. He went far away from his kingdom, leaving aside all hopes of the royal throne, but Lord Krishna again installed him." So there is a story here, and this story also can relate to us. We can also understand the story. You can take it off, Prabhu. I'm just going to share a little bit about Ugrasena. Okay, so Ugrasena he was the king of Mathura. I just want to hear from you, who of you know, who, maybe simple, Ugrasena, what is his role? Who's connected to him? Who's connected to Ugrasena? Somebody very important that we study all the time. We study about him. Anyone?
Kamsa.
Yay, Kamsa! Demon! And listen to this. Kamsa is Ugrasena's son. So Ugrasena, thank you, Govinda, he is this great, amazing king that is connected to Krishna, fully aligned with Krishna, fully in love with Krishna, fully understanding he's a servant of Krishna. But he has a son that's a demon. So sometimes in our lives, we may not understand how, even as devotees, sometimes we expect all of our children to be godly and to be, Vaishnavas, and that's our expectations for our children. Sometimes we may have children that may completely want to be absorbed in material energy, and that may be beyond our what we can do as responsible parents. We may not be able to, help them because they may need to go through that period of their lives and have those experiences of whatever they may be connected to in material life. And the best that we can do for our children is to remind them about Krishna. Even when they choose material life, all we can do is be an example ourselves, and then we can, inspire them to remember Krishna in a very loving and caring way. So this is what happened with Ugrasena. He's this great king, and his own son wants to kill him, right? Because of his affection. This word affection is so key, because when we have affection for another person, it can bring up so much envy from so many things around us, so many people around us. So this affection that he has for Krishna is irritating and disturbing to Kamsa. And Kamsa is like, he won't have it. So Kamsa, he was very powerful. Of course, he's the son of Ugrasena. Ugrasena is he's most powerful. He's a king. And so Kamsa, in his mood of acting as a demon, remember, this is all pastimes. Kamsa is acting out of pastime. He befriends all of these other very, very valiant kings, and he takes their kingdoms. And, he's just like this person that he's a warrior, so he knows how to fight, and he's very smart, he's very intelligent. However, he's intelligent on the wrong side. He's intelligent on the side of Krishna's external energy, and not on the side of Krishna's internal energy. And so therefore, he does things that we would term very abominable. However, what happens when Kamsa is being this just arrogant, just more than arrogant, he's actually quite violent to his father. Krishna is seeing all this. And so Krishna realizes he has to protect his devotees. So what happens is Krishna had to arrange with the architect to build a place where he could take Ugrasena away from Kamsa's craziness. And so with Vishwakarma, the architect, he builds Dwarka, and he takes Ugrasena and the whole Yadu dynasty. He takes them all away, because what Kamsa did, which is, if anyone is into battle, on the 4th of July, we were doing, one of the devotees was doing firecrackers, yeah. And they do this every year in Gitanagari. And they're big firecrackers, anyway, when they light a firecracker, they can be very beautiful, and they can also be very dangerous. And so there was a new person, a person that's not a devotee. He's come around for a long time, but he's not a devotee. And he said to me, he asked me, he says, what's the point of these firecrackers? I don't understand. Why are they doing this? What's the point of it? And so I was caught off guard by that question. And I thought, okay. So immediately I went, to my spiritual master for an answer. Please give me an answer real quick, because it's true. Like, okay, why are devotees engaged in doing this? However, I said to him, well, for me, it kind of reminds me about the spiritual world and how beautiful the spiritual world can be once the firecracker is lit up. It's so bright. There's so many colors. It's so beautiful. I said, so in one sense, it reminds me of that. But for some people, it reminds them of war, and fighting, and what it must have been like at the Battle of Kurukshetra, when Arjuna shot his arrows, and what must that have been like? What, when we hear about these different weapons in war, in terms of reading Srimad Bhagavatam, and we hear the fire that came from some of these weapons, and the light and the brightness. And so firecrackers can sometimes remind us of those kinds of things in war. So he was a little like, okay, because of course he doesn't know much about the spiritual world, or he doesn't even know much about Arjuna. And so he says, well, the only thing I said, what does it mean? What does it mean for you? Like, what are you thinking? Because I thought, oh, he's definitely gone to the negative side of his brain. So how can I help him to come to a more positive side? And so then he said, well, when I see the firecrackers, I think, of how beautiful this earth is and how many different ways that we can appreciate this earth. And then he went into, mountains and this and different things. But however, he also had some appreciation for the fact that firecrackers can remind us of some kind of beauty. And so here we have war. We have definitely Kamsa. He was engaged in fighting with with bringing all of these different kings to demolish Mathura, right? He wanted to destroy Mathura. And so when Krishna saw that, Krishna then took Ugrasen and he took the Yadus, all the Yadus, to Dwarka. And when he was there, then Krishna made him king in Dwarka. Actually, Krishna was a prince in Dwarka. Krishna wasn't a king. And so he made Ugrasen the king. And then we know after Krishna killed Kamsa in Mathura, then Ugrasen was once again reinstated as king in Mathura. So this is the reason why Vidura is asking Uddhava about Ugrasen, because Ugrasen has an amazing backstory and he wants to hear how is he doing, because he went through so much with his crazy son. So how even though Vidura knows, because Vidura, he's very in his heart connected to the Lord, but again, this is a part of the affection that we have for those persons that are connected with the Supreme Lord, this affection. And also he was in separation, from, because remember, he had left. So he was in separation from all of these personalities. And these are great personalities, that accompany Krishna to perform different leelas. So he's inquiring, but he's inquiring for the benefit of us. He's inquiring to help us, just like sometimes we may go, we may leave a place. Like I always feel sad about having left Africa, because having left, many places, many parts of Africa, because I would know that I would not see those persons again, some of them. And I would know that, that's like a part of, just this process of connecting with Krishna's servants. We may be with them for some time and then sometime we won't. And so I used to think about that a lot, I still do now. Krishna has made arrangements where we could see each other on Zoom and talk to each other, and there's so many ways we can connect, but there was a time when we had no real connection except maybe through writing. And I would feel a lot of separation from people that I had developed real genuine affection for in while I was in Africa. And some of those persons I would never see again. So when I would see someone, I would ask, well, how's this person? How's that person? How's the other person? How are they doing? What's happening? How's Srivas? I remember when he used to do X, Y, and Z. How is Ishvara? I remember, I would ask like that. And so this is the mood. You ask about persons that are connected in some way that will remind us about something in relationship to the Lord. So this is it's something that's always going on. And then the last verse is spiritual technology. This last verse about Samba. Oh, Vidura is asking, how's Samba doing? How is Samba doing? And then he gives some descriptions of him. He exactly resembles the son of Krishna. So we can get an idea. Samba, beautiful, right? Because Krishna is most beautiful. So if somebody resembles Krishna, they're beautiful. Like Uddhava, he resembles Krishna. It's beautiful. And so Prabhupada explains here, in a previous birth, he was born as Kartikeya. Now remember, when Shiva saw Parvati after he burnt Cupid to ashes, him and Parvati had a child, and that child was Kartikeya, right? So Kartikeya was now born in the wife of Lord Shiva, born in the wife of Parvati, Kartikeya. And now he was born in the wife of Parvati, and now now this part of the story, he's born in the womb of Jambavati. And he's born in the womb of Jambavati with the name Samba, but it's the same personality, Kartikeya. So so these pastimes, when I listen to these pastimes, I always think of how every one of us in this material world have a backstory. And that backstory for many of us, of course, is perhaps, at least for me, my backstory is like Kamsa in many ways, kind of demonia, in that my backstory that I can remember has always been engaged in material energy. However, maybe not to the degree of definitely not to the degree of Kamsa's engagement in material energy, but to some degree in my engagement in material energy. However, my engagement in material energy was actually designed for me to come to be where I am now, trying to be a devotee of Krishna. So that design that I actually helped to make for my life from being in material energy was always to help me to become a devotee of the Lord. And so when the time was proper, when it was all aligned, Krishna arranged for my spiritual master to come into my life, my revered spiritual master, His Holiness Bhaktitirtha Swami. He came into my life in 1979 when I was at the peak of thinking, there's got to be something else. This can't be all there is. There must be something else. Even though I was actually a devotee of Lord Shiva, even as a devotee of Lord Shiva, I understood there's got to be something else. That was the Lord in the heart. Now, my spiritual master came and opened my eyes, right? Just to help remove the darkness of whatever lingering material desires I may still have. And so here we understand the importance of this spiritual technology, that really when we hear about these personalities all have some backstory. Their backstory is directly connected with Krishna. My backstory is directly connected with Krishna's external energy, connected with modes of material nature. However, it's an impetus. That backstory is an impetus. So we need to be very careful when we think about devotees in terms of just their backstories, because we don't understand how their backstories were being used to help them to become the devotees that they are aspiring to be. The fact that their backstory helped them to connect with a spiritual master in this life is one of the most glorious things that any human, any jiva can ever achieve in their lifetime. And so why is this now considered spiritual technology? Because in this purport, Prabhupada speaks about, okay, so I'm shifting back a little bit just to remind us about Samba. So one of the things about Samba, one story about Samba, why Vidura is inquiring, because Samba has all these amazing pastimes about his own life. So Samba, he fell in love with Duryodhana's daughter, right? And Duryodhana was completely like, what? No way, that's not going to happen. You are the son of Krishna. There's no way you're going to marry my daughter. And so Duryodhana captured him. Well, first Samba went and just took the daughter. The daughter didn't really want to be with him, but he took her. That was a part of the Swayambhav ceremony. He took her away, and Duryodhana got really upset, really upset, and he captured him, and he put him in prison. And when he put Samba in prison, of course, the news got to Dwarka. It got to Krishna. Krishna is like, okay, now that's too much, Duryodhana. However, Balaram stepped in, and Balaram told Krishna, I'll go deal with it. Don't worry about it. I'm going to go deal with it. So Balaram goes to Duryodhana's place where he's living, and he comes with his army, and he tells Duryodhana, let him out the prison. Let Samba out the prison. And of course, Duryodhana gave some, he gave some fight about that, and they fought. And in that, after the fight, of course, Balaram, we know the story. Balaram used his plow, and Prabhupada explains this, that he was digging up the earth of the city it was like an earthquake, like one of the biggest earthquake you can think about. There was Balaram using his plow to totally destroy the city of Duryodhana. And so then Duryodhana, of course, gave in, and then Samba was able to marry the daughter of Duryodhana. And so Samba, he is an amazing personality. There's many stories of him playing in different ways. Actually, he was the cause of the Yadus killing themselves, and that's another beautiful story. So the point in these pastimes is to help us to look at the stories, look at how Krishna engaged everyone, look at how Krishna orchestrates different activities in the lives of these personalities, and how we could learn from these different stories, the different activities that were orchestrated, and how our lives may be impacted in some way, or can be impacted in some way by some of these pastimes. So again, going back to the first one, Pradyumna, that pastime with Cupid and Pradyumna is Jiva Goswami stepping in and making sure that we don't doubt who Krishna is and Krishna's expansions and their roles. The second story is about Ugrasena, this great king who, with all his power as a king, he couldn't control his child. He couldn't change the demoniac nature of his child. And then now, thirdly, this pastime of Samba. This pastime is to help us to, Prabhupada says in the purport, that he gives us some understanding about qualitative incarnations. These qualitative incarnations are like the three gunas, understanding the gunas. It's important for us to understand that. He tells us about Kartikeya, who was Kartikeya in a past life, and how Kartikeya became Samba in this life. And then he explains to us how when Krishna appeared, all the other forms appeared, right? When Krishna comes, he comes with all his different servants. Remember, he was the one that told the demigods, okay, I'm going to go down there. I'm going to, get rid of all these demons. I want you all to come with me. All of you, come with me. And so in our own lives, if we can understand that Krishna is orchestrating everything that's going on, some of it we might think we can change. Some of it we want to change. Some of it we try to change. However, if we remember that we're simply servants and not controllers, and then we can enter into this mood of Vidura, who's simply just wanting to remember, affection, with affection, these great personalities that were engaged in Krishna's pastimes. So with affection, let us remember all of these persons that have been brought into our lives as devotees. Our lives, whether we appreciate what they do, whether we appreciate their behavior or not, let us treat them all with affection. That is the mood of the Supreme Lord when he comes. Okay, my dear friends, Nitai Gauranga, Hari Hari, thank you very much. And we're open now to hearing from you, some of your reflections, some of your realizations about reading these different pastimes. Haribol.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mother VRAJALILA. It's interesting. All the three verses or texts relates to some wonderful pastimes with deeper background stories, and you so diligently give us some of those background stories, which are very helpful. Dear devotees, if anyone may have questions, comments, realizations you would like to ask or share, please indicate by using the hand emoji or your physical hand, and you'll be asked to unmute to ask your question or share your realizations. Hare Krishna. Well, Mother, I can see that these texts we just treated must be very interesting to you because thankfully to some of us, our beloved Gurudev trained us to care for each other. I think that was one of his major service to Srila Prabhupada, how to care for the devotees. And we're seeing here how Vidura is asking for the welfare and the well-being of these people he knew he interacted with. Now, my question is, this is just vague because I do not think there is a particular answer to it. But we know Shri Gurudev gave this amazing class in Mayapur 96, where he said, Shri Prabhupada is coming back again. And if Shri Prabhupada came and then asked you, hey, Sahadev, where is Gauranga Lila? And then my answer is, Gurudev, he blooped. I don't know where he's at. And then Shri Prabhupada will ask, what did you do? So we know quite a number of devotees who have performed amazing devotional service in the movement. And now we cannot see them, we cannot hear of them. But most of the time, we don't even remember them to try to ask of their well-being. So in that case, what do we, those of us who are fortunate enough to still be in the movement and rendering some service, what should be our attempt to try to get in touch with these people that we cannot have contact with again? But we know that they had once served so much in the service of Guru and Krishna. What do we have to do? And how do we go about it?
Yeah, that's a wonderful, thoughtful, compassionate question, Sahadev, because it is a fact that there's so many devotees that have gone away. I mean, I read recently that there are only, even in Prabhupada's family, there's only like 1/3 of the personalities that came to serve Prabhupada that may be actively involved now in terms of all the people, all the persons that he connected with and gave the mercy to. So one thing that, the first thing that comes to my heart is prayer, because of course, there may be things we can do practically. I mean, now the internet is such a place, it's not so difficult anymore to find people. However, I first go to prayer because prayer can change everything. And I pray to the Lord, to please, intervene in those persons' lives. And Krishna, once there's this, as you know the story, once you meet that little blue boy, you really can't go too far away. You may go, but it can't go too far. So Krishna, he himself is caring for his devotees. And Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita that even if a person performs whatever little service a person does, that service will go with him for the next life. So they are protected. Whoever has gone away, they're definitely protected by the services that they did. Does anyone know that verse? That's such an important verse, actually. It's in the Bhagavad Gita, but Krishna says like that the service is never go in vain. So we just take up where we left off. What is it? There's no loss or diminution on this path, little advancement. And so, so that verse is really key, very important. However, on a practical level, oh yes, that's it. In this endeavor, there's Bhagavad Gita 240. Thank you. Such a beautiful verse. In this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. And if we go into that purport, I believe Prabhupada mentions, if we go down to the purport, activity in Krishna consciousness or acting for the benefit of Krishna without expectation of sense gratification. Of course, that's the highest, but even a small beginning of such activity finds no impediment, nor can that small beginning be lost at any stage. So anyone that has performed any activity, any service for the Lord sees that. 1% done in Krishna consciousness bears permanent results, so that the next beginning is from the point of 2%. So, whereas if someone just continues in material activity without 100% success, there is no profit. So even if somebody becomes wealthy, they become famous, they develop these, whatever they may have these different attributes in material energy, there is no profit. But because someone engaged in devotional service, then that person will benefit. So, so that verse, you can take it down, Prabhu. That verse is so key that we can know Krishna will protect everyone. At the same time, because we're human, we're having a human body, then of course that compassion is so very important. So the compassion is, how do we practicalize that? Reaching out to those persons that might know those persons. Yeah, like for example, like in Nigeria, there were many devotees that I met during the time I was there, especially the women, because the women, the tendency is they need to be protected, and they need to be protected mostly by scripture, by knowledge. But many times ladies are not so, maybe they don't always spend time. They're more involved in activities that might limit their absorption in knowledge. And so many go away because of a lack of knowledge. And so that's sometimes I think of some of those devotees, those ladies, and I think now about them that, wow, I would love to reconnect. So somehow or other we can, maybe have a women's group or something to talk sastra, to talk scripture. As one woman I remember from Nigeria, and she was so sincere. She was so very sincere. And she just really needed someone to spend time with her to help her to go deeper into the scriptures. And I think about her all the time, even now. And it's been almost, I don't know how many years later, I think of her and I wonder, how is she doing? So, yeah, thank you for even bringing us into that awareness, Sahadev. But prayer, and trying to reach out as much as we can somehow. Yeah. I don't know. Do you have any other thoughts on that?
Well, thank you, but we have this very infant organization that has started in Ghana, of course, in honor of Gurudev, His Holiness Bhaktivinoda Swami Maharaj, to bring devotees, not just devotees, but anybody who is a well-wisher of Gurudev and Srila Prabhupada and Krishna, together as one body and try to serve together and care for each other, and particularly to try to reach out to devotees who are no more quite active and try to bring them on board. And so it's like I said, it's an infant, it's a baby organization, but that is the idea. And so far, we've started doing something in that regard, and we pray to Guru and the devotees to help us in this pursuit, that we can reach out to lots of devotees whom we knew once that worked so hard to serve Guru and Krishna, but they are no more active. So that is what we're trying to do, like prayers and trying to reach out, just like you said. That is exactly what we're trying to do. So we need the prayers of the devotees. So it can get established and get extended to other parts of West Africa, and then Africa and the world in general.
Yes.
So, Hare Krishna.
That's so important. Thank you so much, Saha, for doing that. It's so needed. It's really, yeah, it's something we don't think of so often, but it's a part of devotee care, right? Caring for the devotees. Yeah. And another point that I just want to share, I see Madhu and Trish Panashad have their hands up. However, I just really, really know, Saha, one of the things that have kept me, my brain goes from one thing to another really quickly. However, I want to share the story real quick. When our spiritual master was leaving his body, we called Mother Sangeeta, who is a nurse, she's a hospice nurse. And we called her to come and help us at the last minute. The last few days she came. And one of the things she was saying to me just before Guru Maharaj left, she said, I'm really worried about you. I'm really worried about you. And I was like, I didn't understand. Like, why are you worried about me? Everybody, you need to, okay, he's leaving. Everybody's going to be devastated. But she said, no, I'm worried about you because, oftentimes when somebody that's really, really close leaves, the person psychologically may not be able to function, right? And so I thought about that. And of course, now that I study a lot about grief and loss, I understand people can go into severe depression, where they can even commit suicide. So she was really worried about me, even to that point, which I didn't understand. I'm glad I didn't understand it, But I know what saved me from going deep into any real deep depression was studying Srila Prabhupada's books. I really know that. I mean, right after our spiritual master left, the first thing Ikavir and I did, because we had a service to take care of his ashes in Mayapur. So we took the ashes, and while I was there, Burjan Prabhu was also there with his wife Jagacharini. And he shared with me, he said, I'm going to start doing classes on the first and second cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam. I'd like you to come. And I was thinking, how in the world am I going to sit in that class and hear Srimad Bhagavatam? Because I was devastated, as we all were. And so, but I did, because it was Burjan Prabhu. And it was Mother Kunti, Queen Kunti, that saved me. Because Queen Kunti, when she was in her prayers, she was accepting that Krishna was leaving. And she was, saying she didn't want Krishna to leave, but Krishna was having to leave. And I was thinking, oh my God, even Krishna leaves, And, it was a real realization. I've heard it 100 zillion times, but it never hit me like it hit me hearing it in those classes with Burjan Prabhu. And it was realizing Krishna leaves. And so if Krishna can leave, then okay, everyone can leave, right? And so I really, really know that it's really important for devotee care to encourage devotees to read Srila Prabhupada's books. I know that every day we have to read, I'm not saying this as a have to have, I'm not trying to, anyway, I'm not trying to advise you. However, this kind of advice, I think spiritual advice, Krishna understands. Please read Srila Prabhupada's books, please, please, even one page, one day, because that's the foundation. Because anything can be pulled away at any moment. And that's why we lose devotees. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much, Mother. Madhavan Prabhu, please, you may unmute.
Hare Krishna, Mother.
My friend.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you once more again. I'm so happy to see you. So thank you very much for the wonderful pastime stories you gave us about Krishna. So nice. And you did it very generously. My own take about people leaving the movement, even some old members, my own reaction is that those of us that are left, we should be strong enough to keep the flag flying, to keep the flame, burning. I believe if those of us remaining were able to hold fire, then in due course of time, some other people that are left, they can still come back. So I'm more particular about keeping the flag flying and trying as much as possible. And also, we also have a lot of work to do because we have a lot of population. And somehow, I always like to think sometimes also that devotees are born. And so one has to, extend his tentacles in terms of preaching as many people as possible so that to get more people connected. Many people are out there, they only need to be connected. So, and if the movement is, standing well or expanding, then even those that are left, it will be easier for them to look back, because some people left thinking that the whole system has problems and it's going to collapse. So it's that kind of mentality they left. But when they see that this thing is still going on, there is possibility that they will come back. That's my own impression, or that's my own thinking. Then today's text, I also have some realizations about today's text. My own realization is that when we look at the people that engage in Krishna's pastime on this planet, even though Krishna says Samoham Sava to, that equal to everyone, but we can see that first of all, he performed his pastime along with his close associate. And that's Gopi. He mentioned it's a close associate. He's not even close, he's kind of associate. So I start thinking, I have some friends, childhood friends, and I know how intimate we are now. And even though some of them are not devotees, but we are friends. If I have problems, they are the first people to rally around me, and they understand me, they accept me as a devotee, So I now start to imagine eternal friends, someone you've known for a long, long, long time. It's a type of intimacy ordinary person can never understand what is going on in between them. Then also, the text also mentioned again that now in Vrindavan, that Krishna only associates with expansion, not even close associates again now, to the level of expansion. So I can see how Krishna himself is self-sufficient and highly reserved, very, very reserved. He doesn't just associate himself now. So that's my own realization about it. Hare Krishna, Mother.
Thank you. Thank you for your realizations. Yeah, I'm so appreciative. Yeah, the foundation I hear of all your realizations is, again, that word of affection and definitely connecting with calling on the holy names and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Yeah, when we hear and we chant and we give affection first to ourselves and then to others, then I think that's the sandwich that keeps us all united. But thank you. There's so many beautiful realizations you have. And yeah, Krishna is amazing. He expands. He even expands like with us little jivas. Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for sharing, Madhavan Prabhu. And I was a very short while ago reminded of some of the amazing pastimes of Lord Krishna. We hear and read about how Lord Krishna lifted Govardhan Hill on his pinky finger for 7 days and never got tired. And here we see Mother Shri Shopanishad. Mother Shri Shopanishad raised her hand for 3 minutes and she got tired. She dropped down her hand.
She's here.
Mother Shri Shopanishad, please. You be unmuted, then speak, please.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Please accept my humble obeisance. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to you. Wonderful service. Hare Krishna, VRAJALILA. Didi.
My dear sister.
I just wanted to just, I had a couple of questions. I just left the dentist, so I really, my mouth is still a little swollen, and I just wanted to hurry up and just be a part of this and listening to your wonderful topic. But you said something that really struck me, and I wanted to. Our natural position is to be a servant and not a master, and so when we're if that's our natural position, why is it so complicated to serve our family and friends? Why don't we want to be a better servant when it comes to family and friends? Can you offer some advice on how someone can just put that ego aside and just understand that we are naturally servants? We're not the doer, we're servants. Could you speak on that a little bit, please?
Yeah, thank you for that, Sri Upanishad. Our spiritual master, he says, we're either giving association or taking association. So family and friends, sometimes the association can be a little dangerous if we're not able to give them our association. Because, sometimes some family and friends, if they're not devotees, if they don't have knowledge about God or trying to live a godly life, they can, become an impediment with us moving forward in our commitment to being a servant. We might want to become a servant of them, and that can be sometimes dangerous. I tell the story, I don't know, I think I told that story here. Very early in my Krishna conscious life, I wanted to visit my family because I was still very attracted and very connected and very in love with my family, because family was important. And I said that to my guru, to our Guru Maharaj. I said I wanted to go visit my family, and he was like, okay. And we were in DC and Washington DC, and my family lived in New York. He said, okay, no worries, you can go, but I'm sending someone with you. And he said, a devotee male, Sanat. I'll never forget that. He said Sanat with me. And the whole time I was interacting with my family, Sanat was there, just sitting in a chair reading. And it was funny. I was just like, okay, because the thing is, family, they sometimes can, do things or say things or try to divert us in some ways or another. So that's one reason, I think, why maybe sometimes some devotees may not be so inclined. Another is that often are not so trained in how to give our association. We're often afraid, to really give what we have been given to others. And of course, someone like you that's very fixed and very focused, you are able to do that. You're able to be a representative of your spiritual master, and you're able to give whomever you meet. You do that even just on the phone with people by just saying Hare Krishna to the people that calls, you know? So, however, it takes a level of maturity, takes a level of maturity. And so everyone is trying to do their best, you know, Sri Upanishad. That's what I've learned over the years. One is trying their best. And if we internally can just have that affection for them, wherever they may be, as you do, I know you do, even when it's difficult for them to show affection, if we show them affection, then that will help. That will help.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for you being that example. Beautiful example.
Jai Guru Dev's mercy, Haribol. The key word for me was, my takeaway is affection. Jai, that's very powerful, affection. Haribol,
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Haribol, you know, Upanishad, sometimes it's difficult to give affection to others because we don't know how to give it to ourselves. We have so much internal dialogue of not approving of ourselves that we can't really embody giving affection to others because it's not within us. And so this is why loving care for devotees is so key, so important. Thank you, my thank you for being that. You're that for me. Thank you.
Thank you. That's Dido for me as well. Jai, you.
Affection personified. Hari Hari, Haribol.
Haribol.
The way that Sri Upanishad shows affection for me is by always giving me support to be present with whatever I do. She always lets me know, I'm here for you. I'm here to support you. And that's so important because we don't always support each other, you know? So thank you for that. Thank you so much.
Thank you for allowing me to be able to be of servant. You know, Haribol, Hare Krishna. Jai.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. It's beautiful. Shri Govinda Prabhu, please, you may unmute.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, please. Our obeisances. All glories to you, all glories to Gurudev, and all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to the devotees.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, Mother, I first of all like to thank you very much for this wonderful presentation. Particularly, I'm very touched by your presentation. Even though I'm not that deep, but I saw one thing coming from you, that all these narrations were given, the Krishna Katha you were given, was directly coming from the soul. I could see how much, you were so relaxed, and the nectar was just flowing from everywhere. So I really thank you very, very much for representing Srila Gurudev so nicely, and your kindness for you be there for us all the time. And I wish and pray that Gurudev will continue to empower you so you can empower us. So I really, really thank you very much. I'm really touched by this, your presentation today. It's always wonderful every day, but today I saw you different. So I really thank you. And I would like you to help me in this area of praise. I do know that devotees, otherwise living entities, are supposed to be very compassionate, and that is our nature, supposed to be very compassionate. And so we exhibit that our compassion through praise. But there's one thing I've realized, that we do pray for our loved ones, but most of the time, Krishna does not listen to our prayers. There are many, many examples. When Gurudev was living, the whole world was praying to Krishna to allow Gurudev to stay. But Krishna did not listen to us. When Sri Prabhupada was living, I believed that devotees were praying. Likewise, all the gurus, disciples, and loved ones are always praying for the guru to stay. We pray for our mothers and fathers to stay when they are sick. We pray for our loved ones, our friends. But Krishna, never listens to us. He does what he thinks is best for that individual soul. And so, does our prayer really works? Because there's a prayer that was prayed by Lord Jesus Christ, and he said that will be done. So that will be done means that whatever Krishna desires, that is what is going to happen. And so what is the weight of our prayer, or at what point that Krishna listens to our prayer? Does our prayer really change our destiny? Does it change our karma? I'm kind of having problem there. Can you help out, please?
Wow, thank you, Govinda Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mother Raj, excuse me, before you attempt to answer his question. Govinda Prabhu, please, we humbly suggest to you to concentrate using your ears much more than your eyes, since you are on the road. Because you haven't pulled over yet. We can see you're still moving. So just concentrate using your ears and forget about seeing anybody, please. Hare Krishna. Okay,
thank you, Sadhu Prabhu. Jerry John Rollins was given a talk one time in Ghana, and he was talking about prayer. And said there's a prayer of thoughts, there's a prayer of words, and there's a prayer of action. So thank you, Sadhu Prabhu, for doing this prayer of action. Hare Krishna.
Yes, thank you, Saha, for having a prayer of care. You caring about Govinda Prabhu. So that's what we're talking about. Having so much affection for a person that you can see what the person's needs are without the person speaking it. He's aware. So Govinda, first of all, I want to say I miss you. And I want to say that I personally have some issues with you because you have not been to Gita Nagari for the last few times that there has been programs. I know you have a life and I know you have stuff going on. However, I look forward to seeing you whenever you come here. So I miss you. Okay, that's the first
thing. And I miss you too. I miss you too.
Yes. We do miss you. Secondly, does Krishna answer our prayers? I'm going to go back a little bit to that pastime of when Shiva, Lord Shiva, when he burnt Cupid to ashes. So he burnt Cupid to ashes, and then Cupid, he entered into the body of Vasudev. He entered into Vasudev. And then he knew he had another role that he had to play, which was to take birth as Pradyumna. And so then he incarnated, right, with the demigods, so that he can be a part of that pastime. So in terms of prayers, and I know you know this, you are a scholar, You are a very senior person in terms of practicing bhakti. But you know, Krishna doesn't always protect our bodies in prayers because that's not Krishna's concerns. He's not concerned about our body, right? Just like when Cupid got burnt to ashes, his body was burnt. He was doing a service, a wonderful service, but you know, however, it wasn't his soul wasn't burnt. So he came back to engage in services, right? In a different way. So as far as the bodies of these persons that we pray for, yes, you're absolutely right. Krishna may have a different plan than ours. And that's why Bhagavad Gita teaches us to not be so attached to the bodies. That's why Krishna spent so much time telling Arjuna, don't, you know, these family members, they are already dead. They are already dead. So when we pray, we always pray, Krishna, your will be done. And we understand, I may still have some attachment to being in this person's body, being with this person's body. And so I will feel some separation. And that's a given. We will grieve, we will feel separation. At the same time, simultaneously as devotees, we know, oh, but Krishna, your will is to have this person do another service. And for those of us that are disciples of Bhaktitirtha Maharaj, at least I can say this for myself. I am very, very clear that His Holiness Bhaktitirtha Swami is constantly engaged in serving us, even though he's not in that body. Just like Cupid. Cupid is constantly engaged in that service of piercing different people's hearts with the arrows, with his arrows, and people every single day get affected by Cupid. Every single day, somebody falls in love or falls in lust or whatever it is. Cupid is still serving all the time. And so those persons that have left, they're taking on different services. And yes, even though, like with Prabhupada, the devotees prayed for Srila Prabhupada to stay different times when Prabhupada was allowed to stay. It's not that Guru Maharaj, in our case of our Gurudev, it wasn't that cancer just surfaced when it did. He has been struggling and battling with things with his body for quite some time. I remember being in Croatia with him and he couldn't walk, he couldn't move, and we were praying. So sometimes Krishna does answer prayers like that with the body, and sometimes he doesn't. And that's why we have this mood, thy will be done, dear Lord, whatever it is that you want to do. So it's not that prayers don't have an effect, but it's still up to Krishna. We pray, we do our best, we pray. We know the prayer is for us because we're going to experience separation. We don't want to experience separation. We don't want to experience guilt. However, that part of us, which is divinely connected to the Lord, knows it's up to the Lord. It's up to the Lord. So yeah, I think you answered your own question, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for...
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mother. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the question, Govinda Prabhu, and thank you so much for the beautiful answer. Dear devotees, does anyone else have something to ask or share before we bring the class to a close?
Saha, can you just acknowledge that in the chat, please? Just because that's a very dear devotee. I just want to acknowledge her message in the chat.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Leela Kishori Devi. She said, Hare Krishna, VRAJALILA Mataji. Thank you for the wonderful class. I'm grateful to have you in my life as a senior devotee and a loving teacher. Apologies, I have to go now. I'm not sure she's here yet. I think
She's probably
left.
gone.
Yeah.
I just wanted to acknowledge
That's so nice of her.
what she said,
Lila
because not
Kishore.
because of what, yeah, Lila Kishore is experiencing many losses in her life right now. So just want to acknowledge her and let her know that she's loved and that I am grateful that she is in my life.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Well, since Krishna is the supremely sweet thing one can ever imagine, so are his devotees. His devotees are also very sweet. So we're fortunate that somehow or other we can have some of these devotees in our lives. And our gratitude to Sri Guru and Krishna. Sri Bhakta Hassan, please you may unmute.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hey.
My humble respect, obeisances. All glory to Gurudev, all glory to Srila Prabhupada, and all glories to you.
Hare Krishna.
I was very, very, very late because of my material nature. Sometimes I have to be somewhere, so sometimes I find it very difficult to join the class lately. But when I came, I think I heard something about devotees living the movement, and something like if you still whatever you do, you will still have that accumulated and will continue about that. But Mother, one thing I wanted to ask is okay, I will start in this way. What attracted me to Krishna consciousness? One thing is humbleness and the opportunity to have questions and a lot of information, a lot of answers I have, which I did not have them before. When I come to this platform, I can say everybody here is related to His Holiness Bhaktivedanta Swami. And he did a lot for Krishna consciousness and for Srila Prabhupada. And when recently the program which comes on, it gives me opportunity to know a lot of stories about him because people were sharing. So everybody here is related to him and he has so much love. Mother, one question I want to ask is that if a devotee, what is the consequences if somebody leave the movement because of your actions? What is the consequences if somebody leave the movement because of your actions, the way you respond, or the way you act? What are the consequences, and what advice will you give for us to be very, very careful? This is the question I want to ask, and because there's some few things which it's really, really, sometimes I become worried about that. Not worry about maybe it will take me from the movement, but I become worried that if those things maybe we don't look at them, it will create a lot of situations where people will be talking, people will be saying other things about Krishna consciousness, which me personally, maybe I'll be wrong, but it worries me a lot because of where I come from. Because I'm saying this because I see this platform as my family. Because initially, when I joined the Krishna consciousness, I was very, very lonely. And for some reasons, I think I shared this story before, when His Holiness Bhakti Swami came to my dream. And when I come to Gitanagri, I beginning to understand the reason why he came to that dream. And for some reasons, I know that he brought me here. And all the disciples that I've met them and I have a relationship with them, they pray everything in my life. They give me brother love, father love, senior disciple love. They always keep me going. And I'm so appreciative of that, because I think I cannot have that love anyway. So, Mother, you being a mother of all of us, what advice will you give? And what are the consequences, so that we can be very, very aware, or be careful about how we do our things? Please, Mother, this is my humble question. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Bhakta Hassan. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, it's a very relevant question for everyone, for myself also, to be very careful what I say and how I say what I say, to be very thoughtful about how what I say and do impact others, and to understand, philosophically, what it means when someone feels some hurt or some pain by another person's behavior or actions. And when that person that feels pain or hurt, they decide the material world is the only place that they could go to and function, that's quite sad. So there are many pastimes in our scriptures about persons that may have seemed like they offended another person. For example, I was sharing about Lord Shiva when he was in meditation, because his wife Sati she had just burned herself in the fire because her own father, she took offense that her father had not acknowledged her husband, Lord Shiva, properly. She was very offended by the behavior of her father. And so I shared also that Sati took another birth as Parvati, and Parvati became again the wife of Lord Shiva. So in answer to your question, we devotees are layered, we are not like perfect beings. We have different layers of material consciousness. We're not perfect. And the Lord and his devotees, the spiritual master, is working with us, helping us constantly on a minute-by-minute basis. So something I've learned, Hassan, is that there is always going to be things that can be a disturbance, and then there are always going to be things that make us happy. If we're always looking for those things that make us happy in this material world, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen, because people are layered. Like I said, they have different levels of consciousness. However, if we understand that we are in an environment where in this environment there are different things that will affect us, and we accept that. If we accept that, okay, this is something that I might not agree with, I might not understand, I might not agree with, and at the same time as we are understanding that, keep that mood of affection for those persons or situations, even when it seems like they're doing some harm. Still do our best to try to keep that mood of affection. Spiritually, we are all, as you said, we're all acting in different ways. I'm trying to answer this question, Hassan, for how you may understand it on a practical level, and also in terms of our scriptures and offenses. You're speaking about when someone might do or say something that could possibly be offensive. On an absolute level, understanding that we're souls connected to Krishna, we don't get affected by anything anyone says. And that's when we're absolutely pure. We don't get affected. We understand people are, evolving in different ways. However, on a social human level, yes, we can get affected because socially our interactions can be very painful with each other. I agree. I accept that. You made two distinctions when you were sharing. You said all of the people here are like disciples of Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. And I thought about that last lady that wrote something to me. She's not a disciple of Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. So there are some people here that are not. However, I understand what you're saying. There is a mood of Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj's mood. Yes. And Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj's mood, our revered spiritual master, is to be loving, kind, affectionate, generous, sincere, thoughtful, integrity. Yes, that's his mood. However, not all of us have imbibed that mood. We're learning and we're growing. So each one of us needs to take responsibility for our own spiritual life. Every one of us. Like they say when you get on the airplane, you put on your mask first, even before you put on your child's, because you got to take care of yourself first, your oxygen mask. So we got to put on our oxygen mask first. And if our oxygen mask is not on, then yeah, we will spend a lot of time thinking about what other people do and say, and how they do and say what they do and say. However, if we put on our oxygen mask and we have our focus on the scriptures, on our guru, then we won't be so distracted and so affected. But as you say, my dear Hassan Prabhu, I need to always take inventory of myself constantly. And that was the mood of Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj also. He used to give us a little book in the very beginning of the institute. He used to give all the devotees a little book, and he would let all the devotees write to each other about what they need to work on in their life. What is it that you see I need to work on? Which means, let's say you and Sahadev have a little book. You would say to Sahadev in your book what he needs to work on. And Sahadev would write to you what you need to work on, right? As we're growing in Krishna consciousness. And this way we keep each other accountable and responsible and caring for what really matters. So what can I say, Hassan Prabhu? We're all growing. We're all in this mix together. And ultimately, I hear you crying out. I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. And it's not so easy to not be affected by what others do. It's not that easy. I can easily sit here and say, don't be affected, but it's not that easy, and I know that. However, it's important to take each day and start that day with a grateful heart. Every day, start that day with a grateful heart for the things that will come, that will be positive, wonderful, glorious, make you happy, and also for those things that will make you sad, disturbed, angry, annoyed. Face them with a grateful heart, and then Krishna will do the rest. That's the best I have. I can ask some of the other senior devotees what they would like to share with you, because you're crying out and we're hearing you.
Well,
Yes, thank you, Mother. Thank you so much. I'll find myself in this situation because I'm still trying to grow gradually, and I'm just a little baby who is trying to grow. So this is my stage. But thank you so much, and you being our dear mother and everything. Continue to pray for me and pray for all of us to hold this love so tight, and so no matter what, we can still hold each other, especially the devotees. So thank you so much for your wonderful answer. Thank you so much, Mother. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Hassan.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mother. I know Sadev want to close the class.
Go ahead, Prabhuji.
Mother, can you please help me again in a continuation to Dr. Hassan's question, and then the beautiful answers from all angles, different directions, deep thought and advice and everything. I still have, I don't really know, and I'm not sure that, the law of karma is still in play. The law of karma is still working. And I do believe that the law of karma can also set in play in devotees' life. So if that is true, then can we also attribute to the fact that one devotee is constantly disturbing me? Can we attribute that to the previous life, that I might have been disturbing that devotee also in our previous life? And so in this lifetime, he has to disturb me. And if I go to realize that it is my own fault, it's my own making, that this devotee, not disturbing anybody, but particularly me, I might be the cause of that, the action of that devotee. And if I can see it in that light, then I will take a humble position. And I pray so that I can pass that exam. I know that comes as a temptation. And if I'm able to pass it out, then that karma will be nullified. Can we attribute that to our previous life? If someone is disturbing me constantly in my devotional life?
How horrible, Prabhu. We can philosophically, yes, we can, in that karma definitely plays an important role in how we are unfolding in our spiritual life. At the same time, we see that, we have different natures. Some people have a nature a little bit more Brahminical, even though in Kali Yuga it's hard to see those natures, but however, there's tinge of them there. So someone might have a little bit of a tinge of having a nature of being a Brahmin. Someone may have a nature of being a Kshatriya. And so there's, a Vaishya, a Sudra, there's a little bit of a tinge of those natures that might be there, even as we are unfolding with our karma. And so if a Kshatriya, who's a warrior type person, sees things that, may for them ignite a certain emotion in them, then that can be there. That can also be there because they might have that kind of nature where they want to, they want to make changes. They want things to be different. For example, when we look at Krishna with Arjuna, it took 18 chapters for Krishna to really convince Arjuna, even though Arjuna got convinced halfway through the Bhagavad Gita, but still it took Arjuna a while because Arjuna is a Kshatriya. He has that fighting nature. And so he showed us by his example that there were things he just he didn't want to do, and he didn't understand it, and he had different expectations, and Krishna had to spend time with him. In the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna just listened to Arjuna. And so, yes, it is a fact that we could be creating, our own level of disturbances in our own minds based on other people's behaviors and actions. At the same time, in that mood of compassion, we want to be able to really listen to those persons and listen in a way where we're caring about them and not trying to fix them, but however, to help them to just understand that this is a part of growing. This is a part of growth. This is a part of how we are unfolding in life as we are trying to become more spiritual. That, yeah, as you're saying, Govinda, that's so true. If someone is disturbing us, if we are reacting to someone's behavior over and over and over again, then there must come a time when we look and see, am I doing, is there something I can do differently? Is there something I can do differently? And that's where the responsibility comes in for each individual. And so that question is very relevant. At the same time, we know in our ISKCON movement, and just in general in spiritual movements, in spiritual movements, people are trying to evolve, and they're giving up so many things, and they're really aspiring to really love God. And so as they're doing that, sometimes they become less compassionate. Actually, as research has shown that spiritual people are often less compassionate than people in the material world. And so we want to really explore, like ask someone, when we want to talk about it, we want to have dialogue. When you do X, Y, and Z, it affects me in this way. Can we talk about it? That's the best way in Kali Yuga right now to approach situations with people that might do things that we don't understand. Sometimes we have expectations and they are unrealistic. We might have unrealistic expectations of another person, and that can cause us to suffer. So we want to know, is my expectation unrealistic? Because there's all levels of people in our communities. And so you're right, Govinda. At some point we gotta look at within ourselves. We do have to look within ourselves and see, what can I do different? That's the challenge. because most of the time we want to look outside and point the finger outside, and we don't want to point it back to ourselves. And that takes a lot of maturity. It takes a lot of love, a lot of support, a lot of affection to help someone to look within themselves. Yeah. Thank you, Govinda, for sharing. Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Ivo. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Mother,
Hare Krishna.
I believe you sacrificed to take Mother Shri Upanishad's question.
Yes, this is the
Okay.
last one.
Yeah, last one. Yes.
Haribo, this is not a question. This is
Okay.
just a confirmation. It's pretty wonderful. It's pretty wonderful that everything that happens is essentially arranged by Krishna. So that's when I think of it that way, I just say, okay, I don't want to be like Mother Kunti, or I'm not that I'm not that humble, but what's so beautiful is that Krishna is so loving that he puts us into situations for a particular growth, a realization, experience. And whatever happens, we benefit from it. It depends on our consciousness of our understanding. And I think that's pretty wonderful, because we are actually engaging with Krishna. That's wonderful. I'm glad I can think of it that way. That's an understanding. It's like surrendering. It's attractive. So Haribo.
Thank you, Shri Upanishad. One of my best, thank you so much for sharing that. One of my best teachers is Sahadev Prabhu. I'll tell you why. Recently we did a program here with some devotees from the Bhakti Center. And I went around the room and asked everyone to share their name and share what they liked about Krishna consciousness and what they don't like about Krishna consciousness. And it was very interesting to hear some of the answers. Well, one answer was from this one person that says, I don't like this mood of false humility. It just annoys me. I don't like it. I see so many people they're not real. It's just false. They just quote something and they don't really know how to really talk about that thing, really. I found that quite interesting. And so this brings me to Sahadev Prabhu, who I have learned that he is a person that is very self-expressed. And sometimes some of the things that he says can be maybe sometimes understood, sometimes misunderstood. However, the thing I appreciate about him is he's not false about who he is and what he says. And he's prepared to take whatever it is that comes his way from the things that he says, because he takes responsibility for being a self-expressed person. It may be that sometimes he says things that offend others, that hurt others. It may be. And then it's up to those persons to have dialogue with Sahab. And I've seen when they do have dialogue with him, how humble he then becomes to be able to express and share and have communication and conversation about whatever he may have said or done. So I appreciate, when this mood of our Guru Maharaj, when he says humble but brave, because we don't want to be false. So thank you, Bhakti Hassan Prabhu, for being humble and brave. Thank you very much. Nitai Gaura, Hari Hari, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mother. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Mother Raj, oh, yeah. I'll see you in the wrath. The wrath is coming up. You don't agree?
All righty.
This is going to be a very marathon weekend. We have like very, very busy, packed schedules for the next 3, 4, 5 weeks. Every week there is some activity, serious activity. So, dear devotees, we thank you all. We cannot thank you enough for being here always. And We've been here for 2 hours, 15 minutes, almost. And we can't thank you enough for sharing and spending your time with us all, and most importantly, your love. So, Mother Braj, you kind of brought about this love and affection, and we pray and hope that we can have your association more and more. So this love and affection that we all desperately needed to use in our devotional life can be cultivated and nurtured beautifully. With that being said, we're going to humbly request all the devotees to kindly unmute, and we all chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to express our appreciation to our revered speaker, Her Grace Mother VRAJALILA Devi. Jai. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
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 Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Rama
Rama Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Hare.
Vancha
Kalpatarubhishcha
Kalpataru,
Kripa Sindhya Ivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Hare
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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna.
Jai.
Thank you. Thank
Hare
you,
Hare
my,
Bo.
Jai.
thank you, my brothers. Jai Shila Prabhupada, Jai Guru Maharaj.
Jai.
Jai. Ekivira Prabhu ki Jai. Ekivira Prabhu ki Jai. Ekivira